How the heck didn't I see this happening? Hello world, welcome to Hex 1E. Let's do this. One of our greatest abilities is that we're able to learn from past experiences. And after the experience of having a broken RAM stick and therefore losing access to all my projects, there was certainly something I had to learn. Kind of learn my lesson. But how did a broken RAM stick turn into not having access to my data? This is a story. I use a card like this as a scratch disk in my editing rig. It fits 4 drives and requires a PCIe X16 slot. Apart from the PCIe X16 form factor, it also requires 16 dedicated PCIe lanes for all 4 drives to work. Once I had installed it in the system, I built a software RAID using the 4 drives with AMD's RAID Expert utility. If you wish, I've written a full script and I can make a whole episode just based on that and on the details of PCIe Express, laning and stuff like that. Leave it in the comments and I think I'll make it happen. In the end, I had to do a partial reassembly of my editing rig, put water-cooled editing rig, put some memory in there, copy the data to external drives, actually the ones we're going to use in this file server, so it'll complicate stuff a little bit, but yeah. Let's get back to our file server. Well, now that you know the problem, what's my solution? Well, of course, build a blazing fast storage server. One where I can quickly replace a motherboard against almost anything and which isn't dependent on a specific characteristic of the hardware. That way, if it happens again, change the motherboard, perhaps it doesn't work so well, but at least I don't lose access to my data. First, let me tell you something about servers. Servers, by its name you may guess, are there to provide a service. And one important fact which I always consider when building servers is that these have to be purposeful. You have one system for one task. So let's go over the hardware. Let's begin with our board and processor. Our CPU for this one is the Intel Xeon E5-2620V4. This is an 8-core 16-thread part based on the Broadwell architecture from 2016 and built on 40 nanometers, back then without the infinite series of pluses because it was actually new. It has a base clock of 2.1 GHz and a turbo of up to 3 GHz flat. Comes with 20 megs of combined Intel Smart Cache and has a TDP of 85 watts. As for the board, I've chosen a pre-owned Supermicro X10 SRI-F-B based on the venerable C612 chipset. Though a bare-bones board, it still offers a lot of features, most of which we won't be utilizing. We just care about the ECC memory support, 10 SATA ports including 2 SATA DOMs with onboard power, generous assortment of PCIe 3.0 slots, more on that later on, and finally the built-in remote management capabilities. A positive note of purchasing this board second-hand is that it already came with a full KVM license. Having purchased this sort of board previously, I decided to pay to get it pre-cleaned, and those €5.80 were well worth it. We need some memory, and again, from a server I recently upgraded, we're having two 32 gig memory sticks, ECC and using them in dual channel. Yes, I know, the motherboard can do quad channel, but we don't need that. It's perfectly acceptable in dual channel for the application we tend to use it for. With a board, cooler, memory and everything assembled, you may ask yourself, what makes this server, file server specifically, blazingly fast? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are 6 high performance 2 terabyte SATA SSDs, which will later be complemented by NVMe cache, 256 gigs per volume. So I think I'll have to assemble this and then kind of transfer data, because there is kind of data on half of these guys. I have a long night ahead. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Okay, I'm back. Sorry for the sound. I don't know where I left my microphone, but I wanted to give you a small update. I've spent here about way too much time because the board wasn't booting. I just had an error say, well, no error, not anything. It just said system initializing and nothing happened. I changed the memory. I even put in some box standard DDR4, and then I suddenly thought, maybe the thing has an old BIOS. I had to open a server with an older processor, V3 version, instead of the Broadwell one I had installed. And then I was able to find out that the board came with BIOS version 0.98B. I think the B stands for beta. And okay, I'm sitting here in front of FreeDOS updating everything, because once I updated the BIOS, it told me that there was an error with the BMC firmware. Just saying BMC firmware not compatible, I don't know. So I'm updating the firmware now and hope everything works out, and I think it's now back to the past where I say goodbye, but just a reminder that if something's not working, please consider all options, and although this is listed to be compatible, it wasn't. Okay, small update. Always consider stuff like that. Update your BIOS, and remember that with older platforms or server platforms as these, there is no a BIOS flashback, nothing like that. You have to get the old processor. You have to update it like that. Okay, that's it. Again, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please leave us a like. If you don't want to miss the next part of this file server project or any of our other future content, consider subscribing to the channel and hit that notification bell. My name is Ralph. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time here at Hex1E.